A long time ago, when gods, demons, humans and animals all existed in the same plane of existence, when the world was filled with great rajas and princely states were everywhere, there came a time when two demons coveted rulership of the three worlds. Sumbha and Nisumbha, two brothers of Asura stock, did penance for 10,000 years on the highest mountain tops, in the deepest valleys, in the middles of rivers, and in those sacred places to the gods. For 10,000 years they practiced austere penances, staying on one leg, balancing for 100 years, raising one of their arms for 1,000 years, reciting the sacred mantras over and over again. But as Asuras are, they did not believe, and so it was merely ritual. But as all good men know, ritual is pleasing to the gods, and Lord Brahma, the creator, Prajapati, lord of all creation, appeared before them, and he did smile down upon the two demons. "My sons, you have paid penance for 10,000 years. I come before you to offer you a boon." And the demons looked up to the creator of the world, lord of the three worlds, he who holds the four Vedas in his hands, and they said, "O Lord Brahma, mightiest of the gods, we do ask of you of the boon that no god may kill us. That is our simple asking." And Lord Brahma, who was up until that moment pleased with their penance, was in a bind, for he could not deny them this. But he knew that if he granted this boon to them, they would, like so many Asuras before them, wage war with the gods for dominion over the three worlds. Reluctantly, he raised his hand and granted that blessing, and the two demon brothers gained a power they had not had before. They raised an army of 60,000 demons, and they did wage war against the gods. It came to Sumbha that a certain deity, Mahadevi, the goddess, the beautiful one, did exist in the world, and he coveted her beauty and her elegance. Of all the goddesses, she alone he favoured and wanted to rule by his side. He dispatched his underlings to try and woo her, to send her beautiful things and hope that she would join him by his side. But Mahadevi, who is Parvati, would not accept these offerings, and rejected his emissaries outright. The gods could not defeat Sumbha or Nisumbha, and on the battlefield, time and time again, the devas and the armies of the Most High faltered. And so it came down to a loophole, as is so often the case. Lord Brahma appeared to Mahadevi and spoke. "Great goddess, beautiful and luminescent, you who hold the sacred moon upon your brow, you who exists in all three worlds, when I granted this boon upon these two brothers, they did ask that no gods could harm them, but they did not speak to any Devis. Will you, who is Parvati, who is the daughter of the Himavan, you, who is the lady behind the Mahadeva, will you take up the arms of the divine armies and defeat this demon host? And Mahadevi nodded and took up the various weapons of the gods, the trident, the chakram, the thunderbolt, and went out onto the battlefield with her own small army. The goddess is known as the Matrikas, and she was pleased to do this, for she had been not only disgusted by the emissaries of Sumbha, but she was most looking forward to defeating them. And so the small band of goddesses went against the army of the demons, and 60,000 they did attack. It was during the battle that an interesting thing happened. The goddesses, each holding various weaponry, each the Shaktis of the major gods, came against a demon who was not like the others. His name was Raktabija, and Raktabija, whose name means bloodseed, had also done penance, and he too for 1,000 years had done the rituals, performed austerities, and had too also spoken to Lord Brahma, the creator of the world. And he had asked for the boon that whenever he was attacked, that any of his blood spilled upon the ground would spill, and each drop become a clone of himself, so that no matter how many times he was attacked, the enemy he was facing would soon be surrounded by exact duplicates. And this began to happen. No matter how many times the Matrikas and Parvati in the form of Durga attacked him, they could not defeat him. And so it was that Parvati, who was in the form of Durga, began to grow dark. Her skin turned ashen and dark. Her hair began to overflow and become disheveled. She ripped off her clothing, and she stood naked before the demon. Her skin was black. Her teeth began to protrude as fangs, and she became that most greatest of goddesses, Kali. And Kali took up the scythe and a plate, and attacked with as much ferocity as any demoness could. She began to hack and slash against as many of the Raktabija clones as she could get her hands on, but each time the exact same thing happened. Every blood spilled would turn into another clone. And panting, Kali, in her glory, opened her mouth, and her massive tongue lolled out. And she stood there, and she knew what she must do. Grabbing hold of the closest clone, she devoured his blood, and sucking until he was completely dry. And Raktabija began to feel pain and fear for the first time in 1,000 years. Kali, the color of the darkest night, attacked and defeated every single Raktabija clone and drank his blood. And the demon army soon fell to her until there was no one left except Nisumbha and Sumbha. But Kali became drunk on the blood of the demon, and she began to dance and dance and dance. And in her dance, chaos began to spread. The other goddesses who joined her, the Matrikas, they too felt fear, and soon made way as Kali danced across the three worlds. Anywhere she went, she trampled and destroyed. Fire followed her, death followed her, and she threatened to destroy everything in her chaotic dance. Until Lord Shiva, he who is Mahadeva, he who is Tandava, he who is Shankara, he began to approach and threw himself beneath her feet. And as she danced upon his corpse, Kali began to slow down, her energy exhausted, and she looked down at the corpse of her lord, and she became Durga again. And she picked up the corpse of Shiva and placed him to her breast, and she became the greatest goddess of the universe. She became the mother of the world, and with her breast she suckled him, and he regained life. And as Durga, she strode out back onto the battlefield, found Sumbha and Nisumbha, and cleaved them in two. The entire battlefield strewn with the dead bodies of Asuras. The battle was over, and the threat was done.